Two old guys are pushing their carts around Walmart when they accidentally bump into each other. The first old guy says, "Sorry about that. I'm looking for my wife. Guess I wasn't paying attention." The second guy says, "No problem. Funny enough, I'm looking for my wife, too. Can't find her anywhere, and I'm starting to get desperate." The first guy says, "Well, hey, maybe we can help each other out. What's your wife look like?" The second guy says, "She's 27, tall, red hair, blue eyes, long legs, big busted and wearing short shorts." The first guy says, "Doesn't matter what mine looks like. Let's go look for yours." A young woman rushed into the pediatrician's office looking worried. "Doctor, my nephew hasn't been drinking milk for 2 days," she said. The doctor nodded, rolled up his sleeves, and gently pressed her chest in a few places. After a moment, he shook his head and said, "Well, ma'am, there's no milk here at all." She stepped back, wide-eyed. "Doctor, I'm his aunt." Some time ago, there was this artist who worked from a studio in his home. He specialized in nudes and had been working on what he thought would be a masterpiece for several months now. As usual, his model reported, and after exchanging the usual greetings and small talk, she began to undress for the day's work. He told her not to bother, that he felt pretty bad with a cold he had been fighting. He added that he would pay her for the day, but that she could just go home. He just wanted some hot tea and then off to bed. The model said, "Oh, please let me fix it for you. It's the least I can do." He agreed and told her to fix herself a cup too. They were sitting in the living room just exchanging small talk and enjoying their tea when he heard the front door open and close, then some familiar footsteps. "Oh my God," he whispered loudly. "It's my wife. Quick, take all your clothes off." A man goes to the doctor with a long history of migraine headaches. When the doctor does his history and physical, he discovers that his poor patient has had practically every therapy known to man for his migraines and still no improvement. "Listen," says the doctor. "I have migraines too, and the advice I'm going to give you isn't really anything I learned in medical school, but it's advice that I've gotten from my own experience. When I have a migraine, I go home, get in a nice hot bathtub, and soak for a while. Then I have my wife sponge me off with the hottest water I can stand, especially around the forehead. This helps a little. Then I get out of the tub, take her into the bedroom, and even if my head is killing me, I force myself to have sex with her. Almost always, the headache is immediately gone. Now, give it a try and come back and see me in 6 weeks. 6 weeks later, the patient returns with a big grin. "Doc, I took your advice and it works. It really works. I've had migraines for 17 years and this is the first time anyone has ever helped me." "Well," says the physician, "I'm glad I could help. By the way, Doc," the patient adds, "you have a really nice house." A man saw a gorgeous flight attendant sitting alone reading the paper in an international airport. He couldn't quite pin down the exact airline, but he wanted to show off as a man of the world. He tried by saying Air France's old motto, "Making the sky the best place on earth." The stewardess gave him the side eye, but otherwise ignored him. Undeterred, he tried Singapore Airlines. "A great way to fly." Again, he is received with icy silence. He decides to go for one last gambit with Cathay Pacific. Move beyond? The stewardess, fuming by this point, slammed down her paper, turned right to him and yelled, "What do you want?" "Aha!" the man cried in realization. "Qantas!" An elderly lady was zipping along at 65 in a 40-mile-per-hour zone, rushing to her weekly bingo game, when a cop pulled her over. "Ma'am, may I see your driver's license?" the officer asked. She smiled sweetly. "Oh, I'm afraid it was suspended a couple of years ago for a little incident." The officer frowned. "Well then, your car registration?" "Oh, this old thing? I borrowed it, and the previous owner is in the trunk," she quipped. The officer yelled, "Don't move!" and called for backup. Soon enough, the chief of police and half the squad arrived. "Ma'am," the chief said sternly, "license, please." She handed over a perfectly valid license. "Here you go, officer." "And the registration?" She produced it with a wink, completely legitimate. Finally, the chief had the trunk opened. It was completely empty. The lady turned to the first cop, wagged her finger, and said, "And I'll bet that sneaky young officer told you I was speeding, too." One morning, a gentle, elderly woman called the hospital, her voice soft and shaky. "Hello," she said. "Could I speak to someone who knows how a patient is doing?" The receptionist replied warmly, "Of course, ma'am." "What's the patient's name and room number?" The woman answered, "Nora Finley, room 302. "Let me check with the nurse," the receptionist said, placing her on hold. A few minutes later, she returned. "Good news. Nora's doing great. Her vitals are stable, her lab results are normal, and Dr. Novak says she'll be discharged on Tuesday." "Oh, thank you," the woman said, clearly relieved. "That's such a comfort." "Bless you for the update. You're very welcome," the receptionist replied. "Is Nora your mother?" "Sister?" The woman chuckled softly. "No, dear. I'm Nora Finley in room 302. I just wanted someone to finally tell me how I'm doing." One evening, Anna walked through the front door with a spring in her step. Her husband, Marco, looked up from his newspaper. "You seem cheerful." Anna smiled. "Remember those headaches I've had for years?" "Gone." "Gone?" Marco blinked. "How?" "Margita sent me to a hypnotist," Anna said. "He told me to stand in front of a mirror and repeat, 'I do not have a headache. I do not have a headache. I do not have a headache.' And guess what? It worked." Marco nodded, impressed. "That's amazing." Anna leaned closer. "You know, you haven't exactly been setting records in the bedroom lately. Maybe you should go see him too." Marco shrugged. "Can't hurt." The next day he came home like a man possessed, tossed his clothes aside, scooped Anna into his arms, and carried her to the bedroom. "Don't move," he said. "I'll be right back." He went into the bathroom, came out minutes later, and gave her the kind of night she hadn't seen in years. Anna lay breathless. "Wow, that was incredible," Marco grinned. "Don't move." Round 2 coming up. Back to the bathroom he went, came out swinging, even better than the first time. Anna sat up, dazed. "What's gotten into you?" Marco winked. "Don't move." "I'll be right back." This time, Anna tiptoed after him. She peeked into the bathroom, and there he was, standing in front of the mirror, repeating, "She's not my wife. She's not my wife. She's not my wife." The funeral is scheduled for Saturday. Teacher: "If I gave you 2 cats and another 2 cats and another 2, how many would you have?" John: 7. Teacher: "No, listen carefully. If I gave you 2 cats and another 2 cats and another 2, how many would you have?" John: 7. Teacher: "Let me put it to you differently. If I gave you 2 apples and another 2 apples and another 2, how many would you have?" John: 6. Teacher: "Good. Now if I gave you 2 cats and another 2 cats and another 2, how many would you have?" John: 7? Teacher: "John, where in the heck do you get 7 from?" John: "Because I've already got a cat." 4 strangers found themselves traveling together in the same compartment of a European train. 2 men and 2 women, all facing one another. One woman was a 75-year-old lady, wealthy and sophisticated, decked out in the finest furs and jewelry. Next to her sat a beautiful 19-year-old woman radiating a model-like presence straight out of a fashion magazine. Across from the older lady sat a man in his late 40s, a highly decorated sergeant major in the Army, and next to the sergeant major sat a young private, fresh out of boot camp. As the four chatted about trivial things during the ride, they suddenly entered an unlit tunnel, plunging the compartment into complete darkness and silence. Then, a distinct kiss broke the quiet, followed by a loud slap that echoed throughout the cabin. In the awkward silence that followed, each of the four strangers was lost in their own thoughts. The older lady thought, "How wonderful it is that even in this permissive age, there are still young women who have enough self-respect and dignity to avoid such behavior." The young woman, puzzled, wondered, "Why would any man want to kiss an old fossil like that when I'm sitting here?" The sergeant major, rubbing his sore face, was furious. "How dare anyone think that I would try to sneak a kiss in the dark? This is beyond ridiculous." Meanwhile, the young private, grinning from ear to ear, thought to himself, "What a crazy world this is where a private can kiss the back of his hand and then smack a sergeant major in the face and get away with it."